Hi, friends. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here joining me today. Like Carrie said, my name is Elizabeth. I am tuning in from Charlotte, North Carolina, where it's a rainy day today, but it's not too cold. I hope you are having a very nice, restful Saturday, but you're probably running around doing stuff for Christmas, is my guess. I'm super excited that we're going to be making an ornament painted clay dish today. It's going to be a fun class and I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to switch to my overhead camera so you can see which supplies we need. Okay, so this is what we are going to need for class today. You are going to need your air dry clay. You're going to need some acrylic paint. I'm using the Creatology paint brushes, and I gotta say, I absolutely love these brushes because they have the triangle hold. They're so easy to manipulate. So even as an adult, I love using these, but any brush that you have will do. And then we're using the Creatology sculpting tools. And then you're going to need a couple of other things. I've got a mat here, a little placemat. This is from Creatology too, but just if you have something to put down on your table so it doesn't stick. I also have a small dish of water. I don't need a lot. I just have a little dish here with water and a paper towel so that I can dab my brushes and clean my brushes. And then I just have this little, what do you, I don't even know what you call these. It just lost me. But I put the paint in these little wells. You can use any plastic piece. This is just came from another project. You can use a lid. You can use a tin. You can work right out of your paint pots if you like, but this just ensures that you're not mixing your colors too much. So if you've taken a painting class with me, this came out of one of our canvases that we did. So paint palette, I think is what it's called. So I love when you share with me your projects. And so if your adult would love to share your final project with us, that would be amazing. If they could tag at Learn with Michaels, that's their Instagram account. And this is me. I'm Elizabeth at La Cozy Casita on Instagram. Or they can use the hashtag Michaels Kids Club. So we can't see you. You have black screens. I can't see you. And so this is a way that we can connect with one another. It makes me feel super happy to see your final product. The other way that we can communicate and just kind of be in class together is by using the Q&A. And so I would love it if you would just say, if you would like us to shout you out. Carrie can do that for me. Just let us know where you are crafting from and how old you are. So we love to give shout outs. You can do that throughout the whole entire class. So anytime we just kind of have a moment, Carrie can read those out so that we can say hi to you and let us know what you're excited about, what you're
So
going to
far,
use.
we have Sophia, who is from New York, and we have Carly, who is 9 from Michigan.
Awesome. Welcome, girls. So glad to see you
Yeah.
and people are here that you're
Gabe,
joining us.
Gabe is here from Michigan as well and is 9, and Ella from Washington State, and Sophia from California, and Grace is also here.
Awesome. This is my favorite part. I love to see where you guys are coming in, where you're crafting from. Okay, before we do a couple more shout outs, let's go ahead and get our clay and we're going to start kneading that. Okay, because that's going to take a little minute for us anyway. So we're going to go ahead and grab some clay. So I'm going to open my clay pot. Oh, so excited. I see all those coming in to the Q&A. That's so exciting. It's like a little present that you guys give me. I'm going to take my rings off. And look, it's perfect for this little paint pot. Oh, perfect. I think I'll put it in the clear one so that you can see what I made here. But I'm going to put my rings there because I don't want to get the clay in my rings. And then I'm going to use a tool to take out, oh, I would say about, maybe we'd say a quarter, not quite a quarter of a cup, but an eighth of a cup. But you don't have to measure this out. It's just kind of what you think that you would like your paint pot to be. So we've made ours about the size of the palm of my hand. So you decide how big you'd like to make yours. Okay. The bigger you make it, the more you will need to paint it, which is totally fine. The smaller you make it, you might just kind of have to consider how brittle the little handle might become. So just kind of something to consider, but maybe making it a little bigger than the palm of your hand would be a good size, a good starting point. So you're going to get that clay out, and then we're just going to start kneading it. I'm going to put my lid on my clay so that it doesn't dry out. Okay. So then, and then if you have any questions, please let Carrie know in the Q&A as well. But go ahead and start kneading that away, or kneading that. And then Carrie can let us know who's here.
Yeah, so we also have Leah, who's 8 from California, Grayson from California, Reese and James from Canada. We have B from Nashville, and we have um, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, mispronouncing your name. Fiorella, and who's 8, and Felandra, 10, and Alex, 14, and Elias, who's 6. Mila, 14, from California.
Wow.
Remy from Canada. A lot of folks here today.
Goodness, so fun. I love it. I love that you're all here. Makes my heart so, so happy. How's your kneading coming along? It's a little, I just love working with all of these different types of clays and doughs. It's so fun because they all can be sculpted. Just makes it really fun to use different types. Have you all made pinch pots in school? My kids always made pinch pots. So they kind of just pinched the clay to make a pot, and then their teacher put it in the kiln to dry, and then they painted it. This is kind of that same idea, except we don't have to kiln it. It's just going to air dry. I don't even know if kiln is a word. We don't have to bake it, I should say. Okay, my clay feels pretty warm now. Feels like it's easier to move around and manipulate. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to pinch off some clay. And this is going to be the clay that I use for the ornament top, like that. Okay, so I'm going to put that over here. And let me make some space. Now I'm going to roll this. Come a little closer now that you don't need to see the big aerial view. Okay. I'm going to roll this into kind of a circle. And then I'm going to flatten it out just a bit. The next thing I'm going to do is use my rolling pin. And I'm just flattening it out. I'm spreading it out. And you can see how the rolling pin makes it look a little better than how I just use my hand to flatten it out. There we go. Put that in the shot too so you can see.
While you're rolling, we also have Ria, who's 6 from Connecticut, and Sunny from Nashville, who's 8.
Ooh. I love to hear your names. They're so beautiful, so unique. All right. Look it, I can tell that my ornament is going to be bigger than my other. Grab more clay, which will be fun because I'll have two different sizes. So I'm going to grab this rolling pin now. It's just getting a little bigger. So I'm trying to just keep my round shape. So if it goes, see how this is kind of getting a little long on this side? So I'm just going to try to even it out a little bit. But if it's not a perfect circle, you don't have to worry about that. Because you can see that mine aren't perfect circles either. This is perfect because when I do my dishes, or if I'm cooking, I have a little dish by my sink that I put my rings in, but the dish is real tiny, so I can't put all my rings in. And so you can see that this one fits all of my rings just perfectly. So that's maybe what I'll do. So if you bought this big pot of clay, that means you've got lots of little presents that you could give out if you wanted to. Okay, I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so I'm going to gently peel this up. Gently, gently. If it sticks, don't worry. I'm just going to wipe that a little bit. It will stick, I should say. It will stick. So don't worry about that. Just gently peel it up. Okay, now this part is we're going to create the little lip part that comes up. Okay, so with my finger and my thumb, I'm just kind of folding it up. Just like this. Do you see that? This kind of reminds me of making pie, shaping pie dough, pinching the sides to make a shape. Ooh, that'd be cute to make it look like a pie, wouldn't it? That's tempting. I might do that for my second one. So you can make this as deep or shallow as you want. So if you want it to be deeper, then you'll just bring up the sides a little more. Okay, so let me give you an example. This pot with water on it is deep. It's very deep. See, it's about this. Let me pull up so that you can see. So I'm sticking my paintbrush in it and it's this deep. Okay, that means deep. But this paint pot is shallow. Putting my paintbrush in it, and here is where it stops. So it's very shallow. You can decide. Now, I wouldn't make it this deep because it might kind of fold into itself. But you can decide how high you want your edges to go. Okay, you decide. You make that decision for yourself. You might think what you're going to store in it. If you're just going to, put a couple of rings in it, then it doesn't need to be that deep. If you're going to make it for somebody, maybe you're going to make it for your dad or your grandpa, and it's going to be something to put spare change in, then maybe you would want to make it a little deeper because they might have a little more spare change than maybe your mom or grandma would have rings, right? Does that kind of make sense? So as you're deciding, or maybe you're going to use it for yourself in your craft area for when you're putting beads, you're making friendship bracelets and you want to hold your beads in it. So I'm just kind of making this, trying to make it kind of even, and then it will crack. It's supposed to, okay? You'll see cracks, so don't worry about that. All right. Now, there are two things that you could do here. You could just kind of put it on top of a dish or a cup and let it kind of dry and then come back to it tomorrow. Or you could paint right now while it's a little more wet, and that's fine too. So I've done both and both work. So this one, I waited to paint on it. It just means it'll soak up less paint if it's dry. So if you kind of want to do assembly line and kind of make all of your pots now and chit chat with us, you can do that and just kind of watch how we paint. Or if you want to paint yours while it's wet, you can do that too. The benefit to waiting is that it keeps its shape easier. Yes. So if you're painting it while it's wet, you might bend it and then you just kind of fix it. Okay. But it's totally fine. All right. I'm just going to make sure it's not sticking again. You wipe this down. So we're going to go ahead and go for it because I've got you here and we're painting it. Okay. I just wanted to give you that option. So now we're going to make the little hanger for our ornament. So we need 2 pieces. So from that little piece you reserved, you are going to take off a little pinch. Just pinch off a little because that's going to be the loop here. Do you see that loop? And so you have a bigger piece and a smaller piece. And if I'm going too fast for you, if you're not ready to move on, you can do this part and then you can always come back to your pot and form it. Okay, let's go ahead and do this part together. All right, so I'm going to roll this into a little ball. Let me put this here, kind of roll it into a ball a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of mold it into like more of a jelly bean shape. Do you kind of see that? Or a bean. And this might even be too big. We'll see once I flatten it out. It looks like it's going to be too big. It is. But if you want yours to be big like that, you can make it big. So since it is a little bigger than I want it, I'm going to just trim it. So I've got it kind of thin, but not super thin. I want it to be durable. I'm going to hold it up to the camera so that you can see how thin I made it, okay? Or thick. Some might say thick, some might say thin. I'm going to show you. See? And here's the other side. It's about the size of my finger, the tip of my finger. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this off. And I'm going to square it off by using this tool. This is a cool tool. I enjoy using this tool. I'm going to square it off. If you don't have this tool, you could use a little plastic butter knife. That would work pretty well too. And then I'm going to cut away some of that. I might have gone too, I think I went a little too thin, but guess what? This is the joy of clay. You mess up, you just put it back together, push it down. And look, that takes no time at all. Let's switch this over just so I have a little more space. Use my rolling pin again. And then instead of lifting this up with my fingers, I'm going to use this tool. That way I don't bother my shape too badly. Here it is again. See how quickly you can just put that together? We'll make it a little tiny bit thinner, just a tiny bit. Okay, now I got to remember that I wanted it to be a little wider. And then I'm going to cut off the bottom and the top. So I just made myself a little rectangle.
And Elizabeth, you were saying the size doesn't necessarily matter, right? Like it just depends on what you would prefer.
That's correct. It does not matter. I wouldn't make it so thick or heavy that it's going to kind of bend down. So you just kind of want to make it light enough that it'll stay up. But as far as, you know, the size, as long as it'll stay up, I think you're going to be a-okay. Okay, now I'm going to make a tiny little snake. teeny tiny snake. And this one, now that I've done that, see, I'm making this part here, this round part. So what I'm going to do is attach it like this. Okay. So watch what I do here. I'm going to lift up my rectangle with my tool. I'm going to take my, it's kind of like a rainbow, right? I'm going to take my little rainbow. I'm going to put it on the back of my rectangle. Now it looks like a purse kind of, doesn't it? Or a shopping bag. So now I'm gently going to use my tool to push it into the rectangle. You could use your fingers. You could use your tool.
And some friends are asking if they can use Play-Doh instead of clay.
You sure can. You absolutely can use Play-Doh. That's a great idea. I think clay over time is just going to be a little more durable, but you can certainly use Play-Doh. Okay, so I'm going to bring this close, and I have the teeniest crack. Do you see it? So what I'm going to do is just use my tool just to kind of even that crack out. There we go. So you can sculpt it a little. And you just kind of use a gentle touch. And, you know, as you see, as I draw my finger across it, it kind of smooths it out. All right, so now, see how it's not quite a rectangle anymore? Because I was holding it and the warmth of my hands kind of warmed that up a little bit. So all I'm going to do is just kind of use my tool to straighten it out a tiny bit. And now I'm going to use this part of my tool to make the lines. So I'm going to go 1, barely touching, 2, 3, 4. Use my tool again to lift it up. And then I'm going to attach it to my ornament. Just like this. And then I'm gently, just like I added the rainbow to the back of my pot, I'm going to do the same down here. I wonder if I can move this a bit so that you could see. There we go. So I'm just going to use my tool a little bit to kind of shape that together. So I'm just bringing that seal, I'm sealing this off. See where there was a line? I'm just trying to make that line disappear. Barely pushing. So I'm sculpting it. And now, since I was holding it, kind of flopped under a little bit. So now I just mold it again. Isn't that cool? That's what working with clay is about. You can sculpt it and mold it into whatever you want. Okay, now there are several things. I'm going to give you some ideas. I'm not going to do this, but you could, you know, sculpt the letter B. If your name starts with a B or an M, you could gently do that. You could write someone's name if you wanted to, or you could just leave it plain and paint it later. Or if you wanted to personalize it and you let it dry overnight, then the next day on this side, you could write with a marker who you were giving it to and who it's from. That would be really special. Okay, so I think we are ready to start painting. How are you guys doing? You doing okay?
I think we're doing okay so far.
All right. I'm going to put my extra little piece of clay that I did not use. Now, another thing you could do is you could roll up little balls and add it, or stripes, just to add another dimension. I'm going to make mine flat, or you could just do the basic pot with me the first time around. And then the second time you can get a little more creative with it. So I'm going to wipe my hands. I always keep wet wipes up here. Baby wipes. They just come in really handy. I'm going to wipe down my little surface here. And then it's going to be time to pull out my paint. All right, so I'm pulling up. And it's time for paint. So fun. It's time to make this come alive. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way. Well, I'll put that there so you can still see it. Bring get my tools out of the way. I don't need those anymore. So I want to know who you're making your pot for. Are you making it for yourself? Are you planning on making another one for a family member or a friend or neighbor, a teacher?
Oh, Elizabeth, here's a question for you. Is there a specific type of paint that you're using?
I'm using the Creatology acrylic paint. I'll show you what the box looks like. Acrylic paint by Creatology. So if you have regular acrylic paint, if you don't have this type, but you have regular, you could have an adult help you with that. So that's the paint that I'm using.
Erica is making theirs for their great grandpa.
Oh, wow.
Amanda is making one for her grandmother.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. They're going to love it. Okay, I'm using gray. This is going to be for the little hook. I'm going to pull out the colors that I'm going to use. So maybe I'll make a Christmas tree this time around. So maybe I'll have a blue background. And I love these really, really bright colors. They make me so happy. So I'm going to grab some of these really bright colors. You choose whatever you want. If you know that your person that you're making for loves a certain color, has a favorite color, that might be a good idea to paint it that color. Or if they have a favorite sports team, you could color it that, or you could paint it that color. If you're making it for your brother or sister and you want it to kind of go with their theme in their bedroom, you could do that. If you're making it for your teacher, you could do your school colors. Teacher could use this for like staples. Put it with a gift card, call it good. Okay, so you ready, friends? I'm ready. Here's my paint. I've got my water. I'm going to pull up a little more even so you can see. And I need to get my paper towels handy. Here are my paper towels. Put that underneath my water here. Getting all ready. All right. Oh, and I need my paint palette. Okay. Now, if you are new to these paint pots, their paints, some of them have, or they all have a seal on them. Let's see. Oh, perfect. Okay. I didn't think I'd use the yellow yet. So they have a seal on them. And so what I recommend doing, there's a little flap here. Peel off the seal, just like this. Then kind of scrape it along the lid top. That'll help minimize the mess. And then what I like to do is put this little tab face down on my napkin. And then that way it won't make a big mess. All right, I'm going to start by painting the entire pot. And I'm going to paint it this blue color. You choose and make yours however you want to make it. So, I got another seal. I guess I didn't use this one yesterday. I thought I did. So scrape it, peel it, scrape it, and then stick it on the paper towel. Okay, I'm going to use my big brush. And the reason I'm using my big brush is because I have a lot to cover. I have a lot of area to cover here. But you really don't need, I really don't even need that much. I'm going to put some of it back. Because a little goes a long way and I can always go back. Okay, put the lid on your paint when you're not using it because you don't want to accidentally bump it. That would be not good. No bueno. Okay, so now I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to gently paint my pot. My brush is a little stiff. Let me bring it over here. There we go. There, that's better. It was still a little stiff from using it yesterday. And I did wash them, but they dried a little stiff. So I'm using a gentle touch. Do you know why? Because my clay is still a little bit wet, or it's still wet and it's able to be molded still. So I don't want to push too hard because I worked hard to create the shape just the way I wanted. But if yours accidentally gets bumped, you can always re-sculpt it. You'll just get some paint on your fingers. Okay, look, it looks like I'm going to need some more paint. So I'm going to grab more paint. And was this the right color? I think it is. Yep. Okay. The lid back on. And then, of course, you won't be able to paint the bottom part of this. You'll have to wait till it dries a bit to paint the bottom. Or you could just leave it like I did. So I kind of painted around and I kind of painted down the sides and I didn't paint the bottom. And you could do that too, and that's fine. But if I get to where it kind of bugs me, I can always paint the bottom pink. And you can do that too because you have plenty of paint in those little bottles. So I'm going to be really careful not to paint my little handle here. But if I do, it's okay. I can go back over it later.
While you're painting, we have Carly who's making hers for her grandmother. Sunny is making one for herself. Ria is making one for her mom. Farah is making one for her mom as well.
Oh, that is so precious. I love those little projects that my kids used to make in their classes. I especially love the little ornaments with their pictures on it or their little handprints. It's hard to believe how quickly you all grow. You grow so quickly. It may not seem like it to you because you're probably waiting forever until your birthday. But for us parents, it goes by really fast. And so when we see those precious little things that you make for us, it makes us happy. So I think your parents will, and your grandparents are really going to like these presents. Ooh, I love how silky this is going on.
Ooh, Ella said she's making hers to keep her hairpins in for dance.
Ooh, that's an excellent idea. Great idea. If you don't have a place for those, they always go missing, don't they? Okay, now I think I'm ready. Oh, I'm going to go back here behind Don't forget that part. Behind the little hook. There we go. So now I think I'm ready to start doing the edges up and down right here. Now, if you wanted to put this on a paper towel to make sure that you don't paint your area beneath you, you can do that. I have this mat and it's keeping my surface protected. So it's going to be okay if I get a little bit of paint on the mat because I can just wipe it right off. I love this big paintbrush for covering a lot of space here. You don't want to put so much down that it kind of gets stuck and you make a puddle of paint. So be careful with that too. But I'm just kind of saying if a little bit gets there, it's okay. Try to avoid getting it on the table. Try not to get it on that area or your mat because you don't want the paint to peel or any of that. But if it accidentally gets on there, on your mat, it's okay. Coming around here. So what is on your Christmas wish lists, friends? What's the most popular thing? I need some ideas for my niece who is 9. Any ideas? I'm getting all those cracks. The cracks take a little longer. So make sure you get in the cracks there. Ooh, so pretty. I love this blue color.
Ooh, Gabriel is asking for slime.
Ooh.
Lindsay is asking for paints.
Cool, Lindsay. I taught a slime class, Gabriel. It was I think we did a unicorn slime class where we actually made the slime. And then a couple classes before that one, we used a sensory slime kit and it was space aliens. And that one was really fun where we made a mask and then we played with the slime and the slime was super galactic. It was so cool.
That sounds really awesome.
Nice?
Grayson wants a yo-yo.
Oh, Grayson, that's cute. Are you going to learn your some tricks, Grayson?
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, I could walk the dog on a yo-yo.
Aubrey has a suggestion for you. She suggests that maybe you can get her a Build-A-Bear with your voice in it.
Oh, that's a sweet idea. Build-A-Bears are so fun to make. Yeah, that's fun because she lives in Illinois and I live all the way here in North Carolina. Okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to move on to the silver part. I think I got all of my spaces. Let me make sure I did this side. That's the side that could get forgotten. Okay. You guys ready? And if you're not ready to move on, you keep working, okay? Because you can get caught up on this. All right, I'm going to wash my brush in my water here because I'm all done. Try to get all that blue off because if it dries, if that paint dries on there, it's not good on your brushes. So I'm going to kind of do a light wash now, but when I'm all done with this class, I'm going to take mine downstairs to my sink and really give them a good wash. Let me tell you why else I love these brushes. They don't roll away because they're triangles. So that's kind of nice too. Okay, so I've decided that I want to make a Christmas tree. So if you want to make a snowflake, if you want to make a present, if you want to make some ballerina slippers, whatever you want to make. But I've decided I want to try to make a Christmas tree. So I'm going to scoop out a little bit of the paint and I'm going to put it in one of these wells. Oh, my brushes are stiff. There we go. Okay, let me get a little more because I don't want to put my paintbrush. I'm getting a little extra, a little more than I need, because after I've painted on this blue pot, I don't want to put it back in here without cleaning my brush all over again, because I don't want to accidentally get blue in my green paint. All right, close that up. I think we need the Oh Christmas Tree song. Okay, so let me dab it off a little. I'm going to start here. And I'm just going to keep adding. I'm just making like little upside down V's for my tree. And then each of my V's are going to get a little wider each time.
Some other Christmas wish list items. We have somebody else that wants slime and a giant teddy.
Oh,
And we have Gabriella who wants a squishmallow.
what kind of squishmallow do you want?
Um, Gerard says that they love doing Michael's crafts and you are a nice teacher.
Oh, thanks. So sweet of you. Do we have any friends who have been in class with me before? A lot of times we have some returning friends, and that's always fun. Oh, my tree's looking a little lopsided, guys. And you know what's funny about this? My real actual tree in my house is lopsided this year. We didn't get the best tree this year. I'm not sure what happened, but it kind of
We have
wanted.
a lot of returning friends that have been to your classes before.
Oh, wow.
And Aubrey says that this class is so fun.
Oh,
Amanda did the snowflake with you last week.
ooh, Amanda, how did your snowflake turn out? That was a fun class. I liked that class.
Mm. Gabriella says that she would like a boba squishmallow.
Same. If I was a little girl right now, I would totally pick that too. I think that one is so cute. Good choice. Just kind of building on this. I'm having a little Bob Ross moment. And if you don't know who Bob Ross is, have your parents show you. I used to watch him when I was little. Way back then, I liked crafts, and I was just mesmerized by Bob Ross and his happy little trees. We're making a happy little tree, guys. Happy little tree. The thing is, you got to know when to walk away. That's the biggest problem. Okay, I might go just a little bit wider to make it a little bigger. Do you guys have Christmas presents wrapped under your tree yet? I have to do some wrapping. I made my little wrapping station, but I haven't wrapped. Ooh, I have a class coming up. Ooh, I wish I had the date. You guys will have to look at the Michael's app, but one of the classes that I'm teaching, it's the end of December, and it's a gift wrapping class. So I'm going to kind of teach you how to wrap presents. So that'll be a fun class. I feel like that's a good life skill for kids to learn. So if you want to take that class with me, you'll have to bring some boxes. Make sure you're collecting those Amazon boxes or whatever that's coming to your house. So you'll have some boxes to put your presents in.
Gerard reminds us that there are no mistakes, just happy little accidents.
That's right, Gerard. That was so perfect. Oh, I love it. You guys make me happy. No mistakes, just happy little accidents. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. Oh, that brought tears to my eyes. That made me laugh. Okay, I'm gonna rinse off my brush. And then, see, this is why I like being a teacher. I'm a teacher in real life. I taught kindergarten for 14 years, and this is my first year as an ML teacher or ESL teacher. And kids are so entertaining. They make me laugh every day. Okay, so now we have to work on painting this part, our hook, and we have to paint our trunk. I might just do it the same color, honestly. Okay, so here's our gray. And take a little bit. Sure. Did you say his name was Sherrard? I think I had a student.
Yes.
Oh, I love it. I had a student many years ago. His name was Sherrard too.
Cute.
Okay, so let me see here. I'm going to go ahead and start painting this little. Now, remember, we have to be gentle on this part, okay? Because it is attached, but remember how it was a little tricky to attach it. So you just have to be very gentle. I'm going to bring my camera down so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. See if I can. I don't know if I can manipulate it in a way that you can actually see. Let's see. Ooh, check me out. I've never gotten this super close up, guys. I don't know. That might hurt your eyes. We'll see. Can you see it? Okay, let's see. You just have to be, can you see how it kind of moves? You just have to be really gentle. I'm not going to have it on super close up for very long because it's kind of right in front of my hand. It's hard to paint, but I just wanted to show you how intricate this can be. You just kind of have to carefully paint all of these little nooks and crannies. And when you get to this edge here, you have to be real steady. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to move it back now, okay? There we go. Looking cool. What are you guys making on your paint pots? Or I'm sorry, on your clay pots? Are you making a tree like mine? Or are you doing something else?
Someone said they're making an ornament on their ornament.
Cute.
I think it's super cute. Gabriella is making a tree as well. Gabriella also thinks that you should make some happy clouds for your tree.
Yes, that's a cute idea because it does look like sky back here, doesn't it, Gabriella? Love that. Happy little clouds and happy little trees. If we have time, I think we should make some clouds. So down here, it's kind of, you can just see the clay. So I'm going to get a good amount of paint on my brush. So I have a good amount here, and I'm just going to kind of touch under this. I'm going to touch under here. Just enough to paint that right there without such intricate work. But I barely have to touch and the paint will just kind of stick under there. So that's kind of why I left a little more paint on my brush. Still kind of hard to get it straight, but that's okay. All right, now don't forget, we have to work on the back of it as well. So without turning, because you might forget that this is wet, right? So without turning it, oh, you know what we could have done, you guys? We could have put it like on its own little rotating little plastic lid or something. That would have been smart. If you make another one, just as right before you get to paint it, put your paint or put your pot on a lid, a little plastic lid, and then you can turn it. And that'll be really helpful for getting the back sides.
Elizabeth, what would you say is the dry time? I guess both for like the clay individually and then the whole thing, like the paint after you paint it and stuff.
And I would say 24 hours. The clay itself takes 24 hours. So of course you won't be able to pick it up before then. The paint will dry faster than 24 hours, but the clay will take 24 hours at least. You might have to come in tomorrow, like it might not be completely dry. I think I'm looking at 2 days on these, so they're really, really dry. But yesterday when I came in after 24 hours, I think it was still just a little bit wet on the underside. And so what I did is I put it upside down on a little dish, like a little ramekin. So let me pull it up. So there was just a little part that was still wet from it just setting out. So I just kind of flipped it around to get that dried. Whoops. Uh-oh. Well, I just ran into my little ornament and I bent it. So see how I gently just took my paintbrush and just lifted it back up. No biggie. Okay. Now, what do we want to do? Do we want to do gray? Let's do, I said I was going to do gray, guys, but I can't do it. I'm going to go brown. So I'm going to wash off my brush again. How are we doing? Ooh, it's almost time. I better hustle my rustle. Okay, here we go. Get a little bit of brown to make my trunk, and then I have to make my ornaments. Ooh, that one looks dry. Let's see. See if it's wet. This one got dry somehow. I wonder what happened to this guy. I wonder if the seal wasn't. Let's see if I can add a little water to it. If it comes back to life. It does. So maybe later I'll just add a little water to this pot. Okay, so I'm going to add some gray and brown and make my trunk. Okay, I'm just going to paint one line. It's so cute. Don't you just want to break out and singing "Oh Christmas Tree," guys? You don't want to hear me singing "Oh Christmas Tree." But inside my brain, my voice is really beautiful. Okay, so we are going to, I just kind of wanted to do some little bulbs, some cute little Christmas bulbs, and I love pink. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab, this is the little hack that I learned in high school. Let me use, oh, perfect. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use the end of a paintbrush. I'm going to dip it into the paint. Now I'm just going to barely, I'm only tapping the brush or the end of the stick onto the tree, but I'm not actually, the stick isn't actually going to hit the tree. It's just going to be the paint. Watch what happens. Boop. Perfect little circle. Watch again. I'm not touching the stick, just touching the paint. Boop. Do another. Isn't it cute? I'm going to make one right here. Oh, I love it. Okay, so now I've got to put the lid on. I'm going to grab another color. Let's see, what should we do? I'm going to grab a baby white. And because I'm running out of space, paper towel space, let's do yellow. Okay, so I wiped off my paintbrush. Now I dip it in the yellow and then barely. Oop. Oh, I'm gonna put one up here like a star. I'm gonna make that one bigger. So cute. Can you put one here? One there. Okay, wipe it off. You could put glitter on here, guys. That would be really cute. How about some purple? Scrape, put face side down. Okay, a little purple. Yeah, I learned this little hack in high school when I took an art class. I learned a lot in that art class. Really liked it. My teacher's name was Mr. Casper. Isn't that a fun name for a teacher? Cuteness. Oh, guys, my daughter Lena, her art teacher in Texas, her art teacher actually became my friend, but do you know what her name was? So perfect. Her name was Miss Marker. Isn't that a perfect name for an art teacher? Okay, one more. This is just a happy little tree. There we go. Okay. How much time do we have? We have 1 minute, 2 minutes. I think we got to go for the clouds. You've heard the saying, reach for the stars. We're going for the clouds. All right. See if we can make it happen. So let me see here. Get some white out. Put it in the pot. Oh no, the pressure's on. Let's see. Do I have the right brush for it? Kind of making like 3, like a circle and then another circle, and then make it kind of flat. So it's 1 circle, 2 circles, and then a little bit flat. Cute. I forget who suggested this, but it's a cute idea. So 3 circles and then kind of make it like kind of flatten it out. But of course, you know, clouds aren't flat. So you make it how you want it. Because
I think that was Gabriella that suggested the happy little clouds.
oh, I love it, Gabriela. Thank you. Okay, that added just the right touch. Okay, guys, I love our little trees. It looks a little darker in the picture. Let me zoom in so you can see. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'm gonna flip my camera, okay, guys? Oh, I wish I could see all of yours. Let's see. Move this out of the way. But there's a way I can see all of yours. Find me at La Cozy Casita on Instagram. That's me. Ooh, let me pull back. or at Learn with Michael so I can see your final project. Let me see. Come back. There we go. Everything's backwards, so it's hard to get it all even, Steven. Okay, let me flip my camera. We did. This is the cutest little, I love it. Thank you for your suggestions. So fun. Okay, so I have 2 classes coming up. We got, of course, more of the 12 days. I think this is the last class I'm teaching for the 12 days workshop. So, but I have 2 classes coming up. Well, I teach them once a week, but I have the gift wrapping class coming up, and I have a winter scene, and that one's going to be super fun. I think that one's in January though. So, and then we're all taking some time off during the holidays, and I'll be back again. So I can't wait. I've got lots of fun things in store. I was telling Carrie that I like to leave little Easter eggs. So I've got an Easter egg back there. Do you see that box? That's a Rubik's Cube for a Valentine box coming up. And then there's my gift wrapping boxes. And then I have a gift wrapping box over there. So you look for those Easter eggs when you take my classes. All right, friends, I hope you had a great time today. I know I did, and I cannot wait to see your project. All right, we'll see you later. Have a great rest of your weekend.